Stop hoping for your business to grow and start mastering the formula for success that every entrepreneur needs to grow their business. Join us for 5+1 Mastery, where every week we go in depth on how to grow your business the right way. Learn more at 5+1mastery.com.
Being relational versus transactional inherently is a fluid thing, and all of us, myself included, we teeter sometimes between being transactional and being relational. And our motto of our culture is we just strictly say to let relational lead versus being transactional.
I'm your host, Chaz Wilson. I bring you successful entrepreneurs, add valuable wisdom to your journey, and help you succeed. Welcome to Connect, Share, and Prosper.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Connect, Share, Prosper. I'm your host, Chaz Wilson. Good to be with you today. I got a special announcement at the end, so I hope you'll stay with me to the end. I got a really big announcement. And for those of you joining for the first time, watching this podcast, I want to let you know what Master Networks is. I mean, look, if you're in business, you cannot build successfully and scale a business in isolation. And we learned that this year of 2020. Probably more so than ever. And it's important that you grow your network. And the question is, how do you do that? And that's what we do at Master Networks. So if you are looking to join a tribe of like-minded individuals, entrepreneurial-minded, service-based oriented entrepreneurs, then come check us out at masternetworks.com. Join one of our chapters in your local community. And if there isn't one, reach out to us about starting a local chapter. We have hundreds of chapters across the country in 26 states. And we would just be honored to have you as part of our network. So come check us out at masternetworks.com. For today's episode, again, I got a special announcement at the end, so stay tuned. But today I wanted to talk about something, and I'm going to be visiting with my leadership team about this today as well, our regional partners, because I often say, I make a statement, and then it's so often misunderstood, misused, and I think there's a myth around it. And I want to I realize that that's on me because I need to get clarity in the understanding of this statement. And we use it all the time. And that is this idea that we want to be more relational than transactional. And I think sometimes, and I'm going to be pretty bold in this statement, I think sometimes that statement is used as an excuse because people say, well, if like, here's relational on one end and then there's transactional on the other end. And so if I'm not growing or if my business isn't creating income or I'm not selling and hitting my goal, well, that's okay because I'm being more relational and not transactional. Or if you are meeting your goal or you're making a lot of money, you must somehow be inherently more transactional than relational. That is just a myth and that is just false. And so I hear it as sometimes an excuse. I hear it sometimes as a misunderstanding. And I also think it's good to have clarity around what does this actually mean and how can it navigate the decisions that we make, help us navigate through the decisions as a business. So let me share, I've got a lot of information to share with you today. So if you're taking notes, please write some things down as you hear, because understand this. This isn't an issue of like, I'm either left, right, black, white, blue, green. Like it is up, down. It's not that cut and dry. It just isn't. Being relational versus transactional inherently is a fluid thing. And all of us, myself included, we teeter sometimes between being transactional and being relational. And our motto of our culture is we just strictly say to let relational lead versus being transactional. So let me share with you, what do I mean by that? So let's just share a couple of examples. Let's first get a definition. I've pulled several. I really liked this one. A transactional relationship is about the short term, right? It's get the sale at all cost. The focus is on winning this one sale without much thought to the customer's needs for the long term. Okay, so think about this, for example, of some businesses you may interact with. There are many successful businesses, by the way, who run transactional businesses. And in fact, we support them, endorse them, and we use them. All of us do. Their model is transactional in nature, and that's okay. It's not a right versus wrong. In our minds, inherent to what we do, we believe to be more relational than transactional. So that's transactional, right? Short term. Sale at all cost. meet a short-term need. And I'll give you some examples here in a second. Relational selling is about building that long-term relationship, right? For the long term, right? The salesperson gets to know their customers, their needs, their wants, and then does what's best for the customer over, say, a potential commission or something like that. That is the relational sale versus the transactional sale. Sometimes we sort of we have to be careful because sometimes we get on a sort of a soapbox or a high horse about, well, I am a relational business and they're a transactional business, but there are successful transactional businesses. However, many of them are looking at how they can stand out by being more relational. And I'll share you a couple of examples to that. Let's first start with the again, some more definitions and laying out some differences in transactional versus relational. In a transactional, as I said, short-term, results-oriented only mindset. Now, there's nothing wrong with being results-oriented. Okay, that inherently isn't wrong. The relational is more long-term with maybe necessarily not an end goal, or you are trying to take the relationship to a certain place that benefits the other person in mind. Transactional, quick and casual interaction. Relational, it's a build-up, it's over time, long-term investment in the relationship. Transactional, it's easy to establish, therefore it's easy to drop. Think about this, for example, Uber, right? Short-term results. I need to go from here to there, right? It's very transactional. In fact, I can think of times I have literally traveled, got off an airplane, called for a Lyft or an Uber. They showed up, didn't help me put my bags in the trunk, just popped the trunk, never said a word to me. Fine, which is fine. And again, I'm fine with that. I understand that's the nature of that business. Take me to my destination. That's where I want to go. That's the result I'm looking for. I get out, no words even exchanged. Like I might say, hey, thanks. That may impact the tip or not. And there you go. It's a transactional business and very successful businesses. There are many of those. You might start to think of those. Okay, and then I'll tie in how that could be relational. The relational side is that it's easy to, in transactional, it's easy to establish and easy to drop. In the relational side, it requires more personal attention. So I'll give you another example. Earlier this year, I went to Nashville to a conference. And when I landed, I had my son with me. We went together. I brought him with. When we landed, again, I called for a lift. Gentleman pulled up, hopped out quick, took my son's bag, put it in, introduced himself, took my bag, put it in, opened the doors for us. When we got in, he had several drinks, water, some soda, whatever he had in there. He had even snacks. He was like, clean car, everything. We got there. He initiated some conversation, made comments about, hey, looks like you're traveling with your dad. That's got to be pretty cool. Like, tell me why you're here, all that kind of stuff. But this is where the personal attention came in, and he turned a transactional business by nature into relational. And this is why I say be more relational than transactional. Okay? The transaction still happened. And this is where the misunderstanding comes. The transaction still happened. You can't use a transaction or saying I'm more relational as an excuse not to be in business. The transaction still occurred, but the difference was this gentleman said, hey, how long are you here for? I said, well, we go back on Saturday afternoon. Great. Here is my card. You can also scan a QR code and save it to your phone. And if you let me know the night before at what time you're leaving, I will come here and pick you up and etc. And so he realized there's a benefit to creating that personal relationship, which it was. So I didn't just call for a random Lyft or Uber on the way home. I reached out, scheduled the pickup time from the night before, and he was there to pick us up and take us back to the airport again. So he got repeat business. And then again, of course, he's like, hey, if you ever come to Nashville, save my information. If you have friends that come here, really smart to take a transactional business and turn it into a relational opportunity. Okay, so let me continue. Transactional, they can be one time, right? And he just showed how he could have multiple interactions through a relational opportunity. That's what he did. That is the key to creating that. Let me give you a couple of other examples that you probably could think of. Think of like bookstores. This was the mistake that bookstores made and why they're literally basically all out of business, was because the bookstore misunderstood the relationship between the consumer and the one buying a book. They thought the relationship that one had with the book they were purchasing and why they wanted that somehow extended to the bookstore, and it didn't. And they didn't understand that, and they couldn't adapt to that, right? And so as technology came on, things like Amazon and others, what happened is that the bookstores didn't understand that the relationship people had nothing to do with the bookstore, it just had to do with the book they were buying. And yet places like Amazon, it's very transactional, right? I just click a button, I get the book, the result I wanted. However, they found ways to make it more relational using technology, and there's lots of technology doing this, right? Think about it. How do they make it more relational? In a very transactional business. There's nothing wrong with there being a transaction, and that's what I'm saying. It isn't that the transaction by nature is wrong. That's the myth. That is not wrong, right? If you don't sell and you don't make money, you go out of business. How relational can you be at that point? You can't. You can't even add value because you're out of business. Bezos knows that. That's why Amazon it's a transactional business, but they've learned to make it relational, and here's how. And you'll see this with lots of other. They now track the things you're purchasing, of course, they've been doing that, and they put things in front of you that say, hey, other people have bought this when they bought that. Or based on your purchases, right? We've through algorithms created a relationship with you, and based on your purchases, we think you might also like this. In a highly tech business, they're trying to make it high touch in the way that they interact. For example, it's not just purchase and it's gone. I bought something last night and I got a text message this morning, an email. It says your package has been shipped, right? It's a touch point. It's a way to try to create a relationship with the customer. They've been genius in that in a transactional by nature business. I hope that the point is sort of being made that we understand by nature that doing transactions by nature of business, selling, by virtue of that is not bad. I'm not saying, what we're saying is be more relational than transactional, meaning put the customer's needs first. Think about it this way. Think if you were a salesperson, car sales, right? And you're on the lot, walking the lot, and a single mother pulls up and says, I need a bigger car, okay? And you start to show her cars. Now, you're halfway through your month, or you're almost towards the end of your month, and you have a certain goal that the dealership has put on you to achieve, and it's, you need another $10,000 sale, let's say. And the single mother's looking for a used vehicle. I'm just making these numbers up, by the way, for the example. And the single mom needs a $5,000 car. Where transactional, it's going to be a transaction, right? That's where I think people get confused. It's going to be a transaction. You have to sell. She has a need for a new vehicle. But where it becomes transactional is when you put the transaction above her needs, meaning let me try to push you into a $10,000 car that you don't need and you can't afford because I need to hit my goal. Does that make sense? I hope that example sheds light where being relational would be like, let me help meet your need at a $5,000 vehicle that fits your budget, etc., and so on and so forth. And again, don't judge the numbers. I'm just making the numbers up, right? It's for the example. It could be 40,000 and 30,000. Who cares? The point is there. Being relational, put the mother first in this example by helping her get the need solved and fulfilling her need. Because look at it this way. If you help that mother get a good deal on a car, if you help her meet her need and it's within her budget, what is she going to do? She is also going to be relational by expanding her network and talking to her network about you and the job that you did. Now, the converse is true. If you're transactional by nature only in that scenario, she's going to maybe buy the car because you manipulated, you pushed, whatever it is. You showed value, she stretched her budget, she made it work, she figured it out, she bought the car. How is she going to feel when she leaves? She's going to drive off that lot. She's going to have buyer's remorse. She's going to have regret. She's going to have all of those things that come into her mind about the purchase that she felt she was just pushed into. Now, you met your goal. Great. You got a result that you're looking for. That was your goal. But because you put the transaction first, it didn't do what's best for the customer. And instead, if you'd put the customer first, yes, you might have to make one more sale to hit your goal, but that's your abilities, that shouldn't be her responsibility. Make sense? And I think sometimes there's this myth of an excuse that we make in business, and especially those in our Master Networks family who say, no, I'm relational. That's why you didn't hit your goal, because you're relational. How relational are you? In fact, my challenge to you is, if you're still not hitting your goals in this car salesman example, my advice would be is that car salesman needs to be more relational, expand their network, get out to more people so that they can be relational, serve more people, and still hit their goal. But catch yourself if the voice in your head, the self-talk, is saying, "Oh no, I don't hit my goal," or even worse sometimes is we look at somebody who's very successful and we say by nature they must be more transactional than relational. And that couldn't be further from the truth. And the reason why I'm saying this and why I felt this was a topic to discuss in depth today is because I see this. I see this happening. I hear it from people I care about. That in a year of COVID, in a year of this year of 2020 that's been so challenging for so many business owners, I'm starting to see and hear the justifications for not achieving the things that we need to serve more people by saying, well, I've just focused on being more relational. Meaning what? Meaning I've given up? Meaning I don't need to talk about growth? I don't need to sell? Talking about growth, setting goals, doing all that by nature is not bad. That's what you have to do. It's when you put transactions, as I described, above the customer's needs or push them into transactions they don't need. That is what we say. That is what we mean when we say be relational versus or be relational over transactional, right? That is the whole purpose of the model we built with Master Networks. We didn't create binding contracts when we knew the best thing for a new business owner or a business owner in growth mode was to have a month-to-month opportunity to be able to afford Master Networks. It's a low up front, but we provide value and build it for the long term. By nature, our model is relational, right? And that's the key. So I hope this was helpful for you. I hope that it causes you to stop and reflect. Am I saying things that are literally just excuses by saying I'm just going to be relational? I'm not, when I coach people, often I hear this, and this is what I'm talking about for you. For those of you I coach, you know that I challenge you on this by saying, well, I didn't hit my goal, or I'm sort of going to kind of pack it in. That's not what you say, but that's what you're implying. I'm going to pack it in for the year. I'm going to look to 2021, and I'm just going to focus the end of the year on just really building the relationships. Yeah, you can build the relationships, but you can't stop growing your business. How relational will you be if you go out of business? We live in an economy of exchange, right? Products and services exchange for value. If you're questioning if you're transactional in nature, my challenge to you is, are you providing enough value? Are you questioning your own product or service or your delivery of it? So, what is the customer's experience? Are they feeling that it's relational? And all of us, myself included, our organization as well, we all have to sort of self-assess constantly, because we all do at times. You just haven't been in business long enough if you've never jumped to a transactional side or made that kind of a experience for a customer. If you only relational, you just haven't been in business long enough. Every business will teeter-totter at times and struggle back and forth, and it's just good to have an awareness and self-assess. Hey, was this experience more transactional than relational? If it was, how can I make it more relational? Again, you can find ways. I think about coffee. stores, a Starbucks. How do they take such a transactional business and try to make it more relational, right? A lot of the baristas get to know people. A lot of the they'll put your name and call your name out there's different ways that they work to make it more relational. My challenge to you is to look at your business and say, how can I make this more relational without giving up or sacrificing the fact that I have a goal and a result I not only want to, need to, and it's required to hit for me to be successful and provide more value. Okay. So that's today's message. I hope you found it encouraging. I hope you found it reflective for moving into a new year on how can I be more relational over being just transactional. Now, I said at the end I would have a special announcement. So here's the announcement without sort of any delay. In looking at the last 2+ years of Connect, Share, Prosper, we've had a huge successful run. And the feedback's been amazing. The support's been amazing. For those of you who tune in literally every week, we thank you. But based on feedback, we are going to cease recordings of Connect, Share, Prosper. It is coming to an end. But don't worry, don't fret. In the new year, we're coming back to you with a new podcast, with a new format, a new style, a new design, a whole new rebranded podcast with different kinds of interaction, different guests. Some of you who watch will probably join us on occasion in the podcast. We are super excited about it. We've been doing pilot episodes, getting feedback, and we look forward to launching that here in the new year. Stay tuned for some special guests, special co-hosts, etc. So stay tuned for news on that. But we're going to take a few weeks off towards the end of the year as we get ready to ramp up the new year with new episodes. So I can't thank you enough for the feedback, for joining us every week on Connect, Share, Prosper. For the final episode, signing off. Thank you for being part of Connect, Share, Prosper. Take care and be well.
Stop hoping for your business to grow and start mastering the formula for success that every entrepreneur needs to grow their business. Join us for 5+1 Mastery, where every week we go in depth on how to grow your business the right way. Learn more at 5+1mastery.com.